Now, Mega Man on MS-DOS was developed not by Capcom but rather by High-Tech Expressions, who would go on to create another Mega Man title on the PC called Mega Man 3. Don't ask.
The good news is nobody asked. The bad news is that it's round 2 of Mega Madness on MS-DOS with Mega Man 3. I don't get it. Not only don't I get why they called the game Mega Man 3 rather than Mega Man 2, since there's only the second game of the PC thingy trilogy, whatever they call it, but I just don't get why they bothered with a sequel to begin with. It's not like the computer world was begging for another Mega Man game similar to what they got before. In fact, I'm pretty sure the computer world was looking for a Mega Man game similar to what was on Nintendo. But they didn't get that, they got this, and they tried to be happy with it, and failed miserably. While Mega Man 3 is pretty much the same game as before, crap controls, subpar graphics with no VGA support, no less, lacking in quality sound, any sound for that matter. The game does introduce a couple elements that make it a step up from its predecessor, even if it's a small, minute step. Mega Man 3 has no weird introductory level, instead it offers 6 different Robot Masters for you to challenge, 3 more than what you got in the previous PC entry. In traditional Mega Man fare, you have to venture through these levels to fight the Robot Master, beat him, and acquire his Master Weapon so that you can tackle another Robot Master to repeat the whole process. Now what sets this game apart from its predecessor are the levels themselves. Whereas the previous game's levels were mostly linear in nature, even if they didn't seem that way, Mega Man 3's levels felt more open-ended than even most traditional Mega Man titles of the time, allowing you to take on multiple paths in hopes of finding the Robot Masters, or deviate from the main path and find power-ups such as energy tanks and whatnots. I have to give Mega Man 3 some sliver of credit. With proper working controls, this isn't such a bad idea, and it's something you rarely see in a Mega Man game, especially back in those days. It adds a bit of challenge to the game in trying to navigate these labyrinths and reaching the end boss. Of course, the Wily level is mostly linear with slight deviations for additional power-ups if you're willing to take the risk. The other major addition to Mega Man 3 that wouldn't grace a mainstream Mega Man until Mega Man 8 in 1997 would be the ability to swim. And by swim, I mean really swim and not do floaty jumps that is traditionally done when underwater in Mega Man games. It's a nice little feature to say the least, and it's something you'll be doing plenty of in a number of levels, most notably in Sharkman stage, which is mostly an underwater level. If nothing else, it's a rather nice substitute for the lack of rush adapters or slide abilities that were introduced in the NES Mega Man 3. However, while Mega Man now has the light-given ability to swim, controlling this new ability is cumbersome and not very smooth, resulting in Mega Man getting knocked around quite a bit and having to fight inertia and all those momentum, that sort of thing. Put simply, there's a very good reason Mega Man was never given any swimming ability during the peak of his career. He's just not very good at it, I'm sorry to say. Speaking of which, the controls in Mega Man 3 are still the same crappy controls from the previous game. Mega Man still handles like a slippery eel at times, and the keyboard mapping is still the same crap from before. Spacebar to shoot, J to jump. Unless you're willing to go through the whole joystick calibration process, which is often spotty at best, this is still a hassle to play with. Fortunately, in the modern world of DOSBox, there's a fancy joy to key feature that helps makes the game more playable than before, and in Mega Man 3, that joy to key program, I should say, is an essential item for this game to be remotely playable. Otherwise, good luck in trying to put up with this horse manure of keyboard controls. It's absolutely putrid. For what it's worth, Mega Man 3 does boast some level of challenge when played properly through outside means. The levels themselves are pretty vast and loaded with indestructible turrets and enemies that can take quite a bit of punishment before falling before your might that cannot pass through solid objects. Unlike most Mega Man titles of the time, where matter has no bearing on any of your weapons, or most of them at least, certainly not your main weapon, projectiles cannot pass through solid matter. This adds a bit of challenge to the game as you can no longer hide behind a barrier and pelt away at a target on the other side. This ends up being a two-way street, however, as enemy projectiles also cannot pass through solid matter. Also, unless you restart a level through game over, defeated enemies do not respawn, so when you kill an enemy, he's gone for good until you lose all your lives and you have to start the level over, which is nice because it makes backtracking through these labyrinths of tedium somewhat easier, if not bearable. As for the Robot Masters, there's not much to say in that regard. Some bounce around, others do other things, and Wily himself provides a bit more of a fight here than in the previous title, but that's not really saying much. But then again, the master weapons you acquire in this game aren't anything special either. They're sort of just there. Once again, Mega Man 3 boasts subpar graphics, although for some reason there's no VGA support, which means fewer colors in EGA mode, or if you're willing to brave through CGA mode, only a couple colors at most. I find this kind of strange, considering that Mega Man 1 on the PC did have VGA support. I don't know, go figure. The Robot Master mugshots got a slight upgrade. Instead of being poorly drawn faces, they're poorly drawn hack jobs of pre-existing mugshots from better Mega Man games. Mega Man still looks bloated here, and there's a couple enemies that look to have been ripped from the previous game, such as the Sniper Joes and the Hard Hats, but that's to be expected. Even Mega Man on NES and other places recycle sprites every so often, because it's Capcom, you know, they like to recycle things. The enemies that they tossed in here are rather weird, with some of them not even resembling robots, but rather mutant plants and mutant sea creatures that look like they belong in a totally different video game. Then again, that's sort of what happens when you take the cheap road and nick other games, I suppose. Speaking of cheap, none of the regular enemies have death animations, you know, the little explosion that follows the fall of an enemy. Not in here. Also, Mega Man has the worst death animation ever conceived in a Mega Man game. Observe. Riveting stuff. That sends dread down your spine, doesn't it? Christ. Once again, the only sounds in Mega Man 3 are stock PC speaker beeps and bleeps. No music to be found here, for which I am eternally thankful. The only real beef I have with Mega Man 3 in this regard, though, is that there's no sound card support. Considering that this was released in 1992, when sound card support was being more prevalent at the time, especially with all the games being released, that's a baffling decision to say the least, but whatever. Overall, Mega Man 3, much like Mega Man 1, is a deeply flawed PC conversion of the superior NES titles. But while the controls are kinda crap and the overall presentation is lacking, again, Mega Man 3 does offer traces of an intriguing Mega Man adventure, such as the open-ended nature of the 6 levels, as well as the ability to swim however flawed they may be. Now, if the game was spruced up a bit more and the controls were adjusted to something a little more manageable than what's there, then Mega Man 3 for MS-DOS would have been a decent addition to the Mega Man legacy and not relegated to being a mere footnote and a black mark on the franchise's long history. As it is, Mega Man 3 has some issues that keep it from being a good Mega Man game, or a good game in general, take your pick, but at the very least has the distinction of offering a different Mega Man adventure than what was available at the time. As a result, it's only slightly better than its predecessor, just not slightly better enough to warrant any devotion of time or money to it. In other words, I still wouldn't bother with it. Just stick with the NES titles or the Game Boy titles or the Super NES titles or whatever. You know. Don't bother with this one. You know, it's slightly better than the first one, but not by much. Okay, I'm done. Seriously, you can go now. Go away. Whatever. Good night.